Hey everybody, it's Emily at ARG Schooling, and today I'm going to do my February wrap-up. So I wrote a total of 6 books in February, which is pretty average, pretty decent for me, and I really liked everything I read for the most part, so I'm just going to get right into it and we'll talk about what I read. The first book I read in February is Gilgamesh the King by Richard Silverberg, and I really enjoyed this. This is a retelling of the Gilgamesh epic. He does it in a way that it feels very authentic to the time period. I felt very much like I was in Mesopotamia, like I was there. It was very realistically portrayed, I think, even though there was some sort of... It wasn't magic so much as they felt like it was magic. Like a lot of the things that happened in the story, from their perception it would have been magic, but from our perception now we can see what it really was, and I just think that was really well done. And I felt like the characters behaved in a way that would have made sense for their time period, and I really enjoyed the story, and I thought it was pretty close to the actual epic itself. For the most part, it followed pretty nicely with the whole story of his childhood, of his friendship with Enkidu, with his quest for immortality. I think it just worked really well, and I really enjoyed it, and I gave it 4 stars. I then read Mara, Daughter of the Nile by Eloise Jarvis McGraw. This is a YA, but like an old YA. I think this was published in either the 50s or the 60s. I will check and tell you. Yeah, this was originally written in 1953. So this is a very old book, but it didn't feel old. It still felt pretty darn relevant to reading now, which was pretty interesting considering how long ago it was written. I liked Mara. She was a really strong female character. I had some issues with her relationship with Chef too. He kind of bothered me. He was very domineering, and I know, time period, that makes sense. She was a slave girl, but I still felt concerned for her being with him, if that makes sense. I don't know, there's something about the way he treated her that really rubbed me the wrong way. And for him to be a romantic protagonist, it just, ugh. But overall, I really enjoyed the story. I just really liked how her character was portrayed as being strong and independent and having to play off both sides as a spy, and how she managed to do that. And I really enjoyed the story, and I thought it was a really fun book, and I give this 4.5 stars. I also read The Shock of the Fall by Nathan Filer. I've been wanting to read this for ages, and I finally got a chance to pick it up, and wow. This book will just... it'll hurt your heart. It was really emotional. It was a little bit emotionally draining at times, but it was well worth it. This book is about a young man whose brother dies when he's young. And his brother had Down syndrome, and he believes it's his fault that his brother died. And this young man is, at this point in the story, he's telling us his life history, kind of, and he has schizophrenia. And I don't really know a lot about that, to be honest. I've heard of it, obviously, and I know like the basic idea of what it is, but to read from someone's perspective who has it and what that's like, wow. I don't want to say I enjoyed this book, because it wasn't really an enjoyable read, but it was really well done, really interesting, and I really appreciated it for what it was, and I really think everybody should read this. It was sad and fascinating, and I don't really know how to review it, but it was really good, and I think everyone should read it. I also read The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller, and I really liked this book. This was so good. This book is about, obviously it's about Achilles. It's sort of a retelling of the Iliad, but it's from the perspective of Patroclus, and it's his life story that you're listening to or reading, and he's telling about his childhood, about how he met Achilles, about their friendship and love affair. and it was beautifully done, and I really loved it. I love the story of the Iliad. I've read it many times, and I've read many retellings of it, and I think this might be my favorite retelling. I really liked it. It was really beautiful. I really liked the way the characters were portrayed. I liked how this gave a lot of the mythological side of the story as well as the historical side with the people and the demigods and the gods, and this is the best kind of historical fiction. I really enjoyed it, and I think everyone, if you like Greek mythology, if you like ancient Greece, or anything to do with that time period, you're gonna like this book. I gave this 5 stars. For the Read Like a Mom book club, in February we read Kindred by Octavia E. Butler, and I really enjoyed this book as well. But I had an issue with the way the book ended, so I'm going to try not to be spoilery here, but I might drop a spoiler here and there. I'm trying, because I don't know how to explain my problem without giving away details. So this book is about a woman who is African American, and she lives in the 1970s, and she gets sucked into time, basically, and she gets pulled back to antebellum South because her ancestor, who is a white Southerner, needs help. And he's a slave owner, and he lives in it's throughout the course of his life. So the first time it happens, and for her it all happens within the course of maybe like 3 or 4 weeks, but for him it's over the course of his life. So the first time she gets sucked back, he's a small child, and then the next time he's a little bit older, and then it goes all the way through his life from childhood through manhood. And she gets pulled into this time period, and when she's there for months or sometimes almost years, and she has to adapt to being a slave, basically, which for her, being a modern woman, is very, very hard, and it's very unsettling. You're reading it and you're thinking, like, how much would we be able to adapt if we were in the same situation? Like, I wouldn't be able to do this. And she was very strong, and she really, like, held her own and still kept part of her freedom within the idea of her being a slave. And I thought that aspect of the book was really well done. I really enjoyed the story. My problem was the way it ended did not make sense in my mind. Like, I'm trying to wrap my mind around what the heck happened. I don't understand. It makes no sense. So if you read this book, did you understand the end? Like, why did it happen the way it happened? Like, I don't understand why. I don't get it. And I really liked the rest of the story, and it just really bugs me that the end was so just sort of abrupt and confusing. So I wanted to give this 5 stars because I did really enjoy the rest of the story, but I had to give it 4 because the ending just didn't work for me at all. So, but I do really want to read more of her work because I really enjoyed her writing style. And finally, the last book was a read aloud I did with my youngest, and that was The Tale of Despereaux by Kate DiCamillo, and I love this book. I've read this many times, and it never gets old. And I was very pleased that my 7-year-old was so into it. I don't know any child, at least not in my family, or anybody else I've met, who hasn't enjoyed the story. It's just such a beautifully done, well-told, well-crafted adventure story about a mouse. I really love this book. It's one of those that really, if you're trying to get your kid into reading and they're not quite there, this is the book you want to read them, because this is the book that will suck them in. It's always been the case for my kids, and I have some reluctant readers who still enjoy this book. So I really love it. If you've never picked it up, you should. It's one of those books that you can appreciate if you're 4, if you're 44. Everyone would love this book. And that is all the books that I read in the month of February. What did you read? Did you read anything really awesome in the month of February? I'd love to hear about what you read this month. And as always, if you like this video, I hope you'll like it and subscribe for more content. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Happy reading. Bye.